That leads us to chapter 3, organizational development. I'm going to stop sharing because Jimmy LaRose has some new insights on organizational development to share.
Stephanie, that was the most graceful chapter 1 and chapter 2 deployed in the firm's history. Thank you, partner. That's great.
Thank you,
And I
Jimmy.
promise you, friends, after I do OD, I'm going to stay out of everybody's way. Friends, chapter 3 of the Major Gifts Ramp Up model tackles organizational development. In the past, we would have called this strategic planning. However, strategic planning, we have proven empirically, has little or no effect. The strategic plans, though maybe they are written, they are rarely deployed. And they are necessary in many cases, and in most cases, they're board driven, meaning and by the way, friends, all board members on this call are accepted. I'm not talking about you or your board. I'm talking about everybody else. Strategic planning typically has involved a start of, well, we're going to have a strategic planning weekend. And here's what that means. We're going to have a cocktail hour on Friday night, which is not a bad idea to build relationships and friendships amongst the members. And then on Saturday morning, we're going to deploy a SWOT analysis, or we're going to use the terms, if money was no object, what would we want and how would we spend our money? What would we want to accomplish? We call it a visioning session. But by the way, it's over by noon because everybody has something to do for the rest of the weekend. And if it does get written, here's what's great. The normal CEO continues to do what they were doing anyway, and they just tell the board that they're doing the strategic plan. And of course you would. The board doesn't know the difference. Present board members accepted naturally. We even have a founder who's the treasurer on this. I'm scared to death. If that's strategic planning, what is organizational development? OD is better understood if we establish in reimagining philanthropy and reimagining nonprofits proper board roles. We have proven empirically, we spent $2 million on a study, and here's what we now know a board of directors should do. First of all, working group theory says any group that is more than 5 to 7 people is no longer a group that works. And if you find yourself having 12, 13, 18 people on your board, it probably is the executive committee that's actually doing the bulk of the work. So we understand that working group theory, 5 to 7 people, anything larger, it's not a group that works. A second huge point when it relates to the board of directors is what is their function? Advice and accountability. Advice and accountability. I have 5 to 7 board members on Nano's board. There's a business expert, there's a financial expert, there's a legal expert, there's a nonprofit expert, there's a communications expert, there's a personnel expert. And in between board meetings is Jackson Doggett on this phone call. He is the chair of Nano's board of directors. He is also an attorney. And I have a bat phone on my desk. I don't even have to dial it. I pick it up, goes right to Jackson's phone number, and he supplies me the best legal advice. My gosh, leading nonprofit analyst as it relates to the law. And by the way, I'll let you know what Jackson's advice to me is 99% of the time. Jimmy, do nothing. So you wonder why I have to call him at all. Maybe he's just my therapist. Okay, so I have experts on my 5 to 7 positions, and in between board meetings, they provide me the advice function. And friends, I'm very fond of saying, put board members in a position where their volunteerism is involuntary. Jackson loves the law. You know, a lawyer is a highly paid consultant that understands the legalities of the way our nation works. He loves the law, and he loves to schoolmaster me on the law. He has never complained ever when I have called the phone, called his number, and he's never billed me when it relates to the legal position that he plays at Nano. So the advice function, it's involuntary because Jackson loves to do it so much. Advice and accountability. In between board meetings, advice. At board meetings, accountability. And if I could just get boards to realize that the highest call on their function as a group is to put in place a strong CEO, that they're just really an ad hoc committee that is responsible to always make sure that the correct leader is in place. The community are the shareholders. The board of directors represents the shareholders' interests and puts in place a strong CEO that holds that CEO accountable for financial oversight and impact. So, organizational development is not led by the board. It is CEO and staff driven. Who has all the information to actually deploy or design a vision? A volunteer board member that may know nothing about nonprofit management or the population that you're serving? No. The board hires a CEO to bring them a vision to grow the mission that takes their breath away. Now, for continuity, because our CEO may change over years, it is the board's responsibility to always keep the CEO within the yellow lines of mission. But it is the strong CEO who, because they're spending their vocational life, they get to design the vision. But they're held accountable for the finances of it and the impact and the success of their vision. We mistakenly allow our CEOs to self-report. Have you ever read the executive director's report or the president's report? And how immoral is it for the CEO to actually write a report that talks about how bad they are? Friends, this is our model. We used 2 third parties as it relates to the accountability function. You use a CPA or a firm to do an audit to give the board a third party objective understanding of the finances. That occurs annually. And a program, that's the financial audit, and a program audit every 2 years. A program audit measures, okay, the CEO spent this money, and they spent this money to accomplish their vision, which they shared with us, a 5-year vision. And after 2 years, you use a third party to evaluate as to whether or not that impact is occurring. So, a CEO and his or her staff are responsible to perform organizational development, not the board of directors. Now, the OD plan, when written, is brought to the board of directors. And a board member will say, you know, that particular section, did you ever think about this? And the CEO goes, oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you. That's right. So, meaningful involvement, but it is driven by the CEO.